And we're live. There it goes. Welcome to paraglidingtalk.com. I'm your host, Robert Michaels. Glad that you're here. Super stoked about tonight's episode. We're going to talk everything about Adventure Wingman 2022. Let me just get my bearings here. We're not going to save that. Never for that site. We don't want any feedback here. Welcome. So glad that you logged into paraglidingtalk.com. We have a great thing tonight and some great guests. Tonight, we have JT Wardle is with us, Ryan Southwell. We've got Victor Dramba. And also, you guys know Harley Milne, 50X Challenge. He's the one that came up with this idea to have this show tonight. And so I'm super stoked. Also in moderation, we got Anthony Peregringo. We got Sean Nafsker. And Ripman somewhere. He's at a fly-in again somewhere, just wanted to rub it in. So he's there somewhere. He just got poor internet service. So he'll be maybe chiming in and out. So glad you're here. Really glad that you guys can make it. I send out a few other invites. So if you were a part of the Adventure Wingman, you should have got an invite. If you didn't get an invite, someone in this group is going to send it to you. If you're thinking of someone, you're like, oh, I know that they need to come on. Feel free to send them the invite, and we'll welcome anybody in throughout the show. I know there was a whole group of people. You guys have some great adventure video, and it's all over the internet. So glad that you're here. I want to mention a couple sponsors. One of those is PPG Smoke. Ryan Roberts has all kinds of great stuff. PPGsmoke.com is the website. They're finally working out the last kinks for version 2 of these headsets. If you want to go check those out, he's got some updates on his Instagram channel. PPGsmoke.com is the website. Power floats. He's got also lamels, chase cams, all kinds of cool stuff. PPGsmoke.com. Also paramotorprops.com. If you get a chance, go check out their website if you want to get an extra prop. You never know when you're going to go on a long adventure if you're going to need an extra prop. Right, Harley? Also, we have a local sponsor. That is American Allied Drains and Plumbing. So if you're in the San Diego area, believe it or not, you can get 10% off of whatever your plumbing services are. And I've heard some plumbing issues gone up in the 50,000 range. That's quite a bit of money if you mention Paragliding Talk when you call. So those are our main sponsors we're going to talk about tonight. And there's a bunch of other sponsors. If you would like to be a sponsor of the show, yes, it is the cheapest sponsorship that you're ever going to find on the internet. It is the greatest. It is the best deal. And we'll get your name out to at least 35 people. It's amazing. So sign up. You can go to the website, paraglidingtalk.com. So thank you guys so much for making the time to come on the show. This show is 1 hour, so don't bail out early. It's just 1 hour. It will go really fast. Okay. I see Ryan. He's looking at the door. He's like, dude, I got stuff going on, bro. You need to.
It's longer than most of them fly on the weekends.
This is very precious time. So thank you guys so much. Adventure Wingman. I want to fire off the first question. What was the initial goal? Like, what is the end goal? I read the website. I looked at some of the pictures. I got the gist of it. Tell me what was the Adventure Wingman plan, the grand plan? And any one of you can chime in.
Let's go first.
You want to go first?
Oh, Victor, go ahead.
So I'm going to venture to say that it was kind of started by Icarus Trophy. Just make it better and more accessible in a way. Icarus Trophy is like very, very focused on high performance. And I heard stories that other than just the very few very competitive performers, people kind of bail out too quick. And it's not much of an event. And I think it was Miro that came with the idea, let's make it better. Let's make it a little bit toned down, but kind of the same spread, the same distance and the same effort. And he came up with this formula of a non-competition, just a challenge. People are invited to fly this 1,000 miles with two breaking days, rest days in the middle. So you fly 3 days, 1 day rest, 3 days flying, 1 day rest. And it's not a competition. You just have to finish the 1,000 miles.
And the Icarus that's a really well organized event. Would you argue that the Wingman Challenge is less organized?
I would say, well, I'm probably not the one to judge, but I liked the way Wingman was conceived and then organized, implemented. I liked it so much.
Hey, Ryan's done Icarus though, haven't you, Ryan?
I have. I haven't done both. I might have an interesting perspective. I did it the first Icarus, so they didn't necessarily have it all together on that one. Mm-hmm. This being the first Wingman Challenge, I feel like they did a reasonably good job for being prepared. They had people on staff that had done, a lot of people had already done the Icarus, so they kind of know where the shortfalls were on that one. But I'd say it was prepared. And like Victor was saying, well, to back up, it was actually a year ago, I was in Iceland flying with Miro, and he told me about this idea that he has, like, next summer, I think we should do this thing like the Icarus race. And as was mentioned, the problem with the Icarus race is that you got like 2 guys that like zoom out in front. They finish the whole thing in like 4 days, and then the rest of the pack either drops off, they quit, or they're just so far behind that there's no point in trying to hurry in. And another problem with racing is that you're just getting from A to B as fast as you can, and you're missing all the good stuff. And so to put the adventure into the flights and into the experience is that you have a little more time to explore. You're landing out, camping in places, or you're hitching rides with people. And so it's just a lot more involved. It's more group oriented in a way. So there's that.
Just to put things in perspective, Miro is Miroslav Zvek, the owner of Scout Paramotors.
Yes.
Oh, he was there.
He was one of the actual contestants.
He's the core of the thing. He thought of this thing, and he actually flew with us.
Wow. Robert, you really need to work on your fanboying.
That's pretty cool.
How many total pilots?
They took 20, but I think there were 18. Is that right, JT?
Yeah, it began with 20, and then people dropped out for life reasons happened and things. So
that hurricane.
There was, in the end, there was only about 16. But there were a couple of guys that were flying that were part of the group staff. They weren't really there. So I think it was 16. I've got images of everybody here and the map and things. We can show that later on.
Yeah, I would love to share that. Also, JT Wardle has a great video capturing the Wingman Challenge, and he did a really good job of editing, and just, I spent a lot of time watching YouTube videos, and I can appreciate hard work. I can tell that he put a lot of effort and a lot of work into it, or maybe not a lot of effort, but he made it really nice. You will like it. So
I love doing it, but it's no Ryan Southwell or Tucker or Judson. You go watch Tucker and Judson. Those guys are probably flying tonight, and that's why they're not being on here. But I love doing it. I'll just constantly put my things out there just because that's what I love to do. But we'll work on it. We'll get the quality up.
Yankee Paramotor said, did JT feel throttled flying with guys much older than him, like Ryan and Victor?
That was and look at the bags under my eyes. So a lot of people say, how long have you been flying? And I don't count in years. I can say I started flying in 1980, but it's not years that you count. It's it's the flights and the times and things like that. But I think I was the oldest. I got to fly with Judson, and so we had a 21-year-old and a 61-year-old flying and
foot launching.
Yeah, foot launching. I try to keep those feet working as long as I can.
Yeah, so I actually want to talk about that. You had some high altitude launches, and some of those packages that you guys are trying to run into the air with are like 50 pounds. And then your just your motor and setup is like another 50. How in the world were you guys launching?
Yeah, you can talk to Harley about that. He talked to me ahead of time, and he flew an 18 meter on his cross countries, and Miro and Ryan, all these guys were saying, get a bigger wing, and I went to 20 meter, and it seemed to have a nice lift, but obviously some of the 7,000 foot altitudes, if you did the altitude density, we're like 9,000, 10,000 on some of them. But yeah, Harley knows that you got that pack, and you're running for half a mile, and you'll see some of the video that these guys have. Miro's first launch, he ran easy, 100-yard dash all the way, and he's still not off the ground.
Now, that's the one that you said he was a Titan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me just say that I never in my life saw as many paramotors broken due to launches and landings. The air was so thin in like everywhere we had to land or take off.
Oh man. Now I don't feel so bad now. We have a spot where we fly. It's like 5,000, 4,000 something.
Yeah, that's nothing.
And that's nothing.
And
that sounds awesome.
We got to throw in Ian too. So Ian flies that every day. I mean, he's up there flying in the high altitude and in the cold. Yeah, he was sharing videos, and people were like, "When did he do that?" And like, it's probably a week before we had to do it, and it's 38 degrees and high altitude, and your body is stiff when you're trying to run at that temperature.
I think another thing that nobody's talked about too is just like wind. Like, if you're at the coast and the wind is you're gonna dune goon or fly the sand dunes, and it's at 10 miles an hour. The difference between 10 miles an hour and 12 miles an hour isn't just 2 miles an hour. It's an exponential curve.
Yep.
Well, the same thing happens with density altitude too. When you go from a 5,000 foot launch to a 7,000 foot launch, you just didn't go up 2, right? It's just like the wind, it's the air. So what happens is there's, your motor has half the power at 7,000 feet that it does down at sea level. Your wing has like half the lift. And like when I'll take people on adventures, and like, really, I remember taking, I don't know if you guys all know like Richard Explorer, but he wanted to foot drag on a certain lake. This lake is at 10,000 feet. I'm like, dude, just know that as you come in, like you go to squeeze throttle, your motor isn't going to go brop. It's going to go like that. So what these guys did launching, at the Bridgeport airport with a density altitude of 8,000 feet. And I watched Miro. I've flown with Miro. I mean, he's a stud. I would have probably given up. I'd have been like, this is not working. We're going to resize this wing, or we're going to take some of this weight off. But yeah, to see what you guys did and how you guys all pushed yourself, I was thoroughly impressed. I've been there and have done that, and I was really impressed by how many people were able to pull some of that stuff off in those super challenging conditions.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people fully appreciate until they've actually tried to do it. I remember getting a little bit of criticism on the Sonoma to Oshkosh because I did, right? I blew up 2 sets of props trying to get off the ground at 7,000 with over 9,000 in density because it was 90 degrees out. And then, of course, I had to have somebody bring me a new prop, and I ended up repositioning. And they were like, well, I thought this was an unsupported trip, but I don't think a lot of people, until you've actually tried launching above 5,000, it's incredibly difficult, let alone having a whole bunch of camping gear with you. And I think, hearing some of you guys with north of 100 pounds, that's kind of like my limit. Admittedly, I'm twice the age of some of the guys who were participating, but I thought it was incredible. And some very, very experienced pilots. I mean, Ryan, you should comment on this because, I mean, half of you were exceptionally experienced. who know what this is about and know how to have good technique and still manage to find a way into a bush a couple of times. And I don't think it happened to you, but it happened to some pretty experienced guys.
Which is why they're not here.
Well, I went into a bush, but it wasn't because of technique. It was just because of a bad choice where I thought you're too lazy to want to reset. So you're going to find a way to get off the ground one way or another.
Yeah.
Right.
That's just bad, poor decision making, you know? I mean, like there are mornings, I mean, where there's a runway that's only so wide and you got everyone's glider laid out on it. The guys in the front aren't ready to take off and you're sitting there with 130 pounds on your back saying, let's go. And you're like, screw it, let's go. And you come and, you know, bring the wing up. It doesn't, the wind is a shift. So you're going right at the guy in front of you. You're like, okay, what do? I run over the guy's wing and chop it up, or I try to jump over that bush, and bush wins.
It's interesting. It's interesting how all of us would experience certain decision-making failures, kind of thing. You'll kind of get highs and lows, and maybe the paragliding guys realize it too. Is, you know, when you try to fly your wing and you're failing at it, you're not in the flow, you're not thinking right, and you just kind of spiral your decision-making kind of thing. But when you're exhausted, when you're rushing 2 or 3 times, I was flying the wing like I didn't know what I was doing, and it's so weird to have that happen to you. But that's part of the challenge too. Is that we were sleep deprived, or we were energy deprived, or exhausted. I mean, I was exhausted just breaking in that Scout. You know, breaking it in for 4 cycles on my thighs and my muscles and everything, just before you have to fly early the morning the next day. But yeah, it's interesting. We don't always make the best decisions, and sometimes the little bit of humble pie will come up and serve you up a plate of humble pie.
Well, I mean, we'll go camping sometimes, go up north, and just unloading the truck, you'll be out of breath. And it's like a little tiny hike to the side of the hill and you're out of breath. I launch at sea level sometimes and I'm exhausted. Gringos on the radio flying around me and harassing me. I can't imagine what it's like at 8 grand trying to send it. And then, like you said, density, altitude. So there's some really good questions that are popping up in the chat, and I really appreciate everybody who's logging in and giving feedback. Jim CR120, he said, did you ever feel like you were in over your head, or you wanted to quit? So maybe talk about that. How close were you to throwing in the towel?
Yeah. Day 1, day 3, day 4, day 5. I'm not gonna lie.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I've done this stuff before and been very successful at it at times. And when everything starts to go wrong, it's just like, you know what? Do I really need to do this? But then, of course, there's I'm not a quitter. I'm going to do this in the end. But from day 1, it was bad weather. It just straight up. There was, in fact, I kid you not, there was not probably a hands-free flying day until maybe day 7. It was horrendous most of the time. And so, but that type of experience, you're not getting to where you want to go. You're landing out in the middle of nowhere, trying to survive. You have accidents. You start, I know, it's just mental fatigue, like JT was saying. You're tired. You make bad decisions. Things start going bad, and you're just like, ugh, I got it. The only reason why I'm doing this is so I'm not a quitter. But then it gets good, of course. You're like, forget, all that stuff's gone now. That's all good.
And I was disappointed too, because I had been reaching out to Ian and Harley, and I wanted to start at Lake Tahoe. I was so excited. I was going to, we had been scouted out all these points of interest, and I was going to sneak up over into Yosemite and do the Tahoe Lake. And Ian showed me all these beautiful lakes I could do. But man, the California weather just shut it down for us. And it chased us out of California. We just kept going. And, later on, we had to break up into 2 groups. Victor and I were going on one side of Nevada, and the other group was going on to the other side. But we were looking for any little window we could get up. We would get up and it would be headwind and you'd get smacked around. You'd come back down. And yeah, so we got chased out of California without flying with Harley and Ian, doggone it. So we're going to have to come back. Victor's in California right now doing some paragliding.
Right, free flight. Let me share my feeling about this challenge regarding this question. I felt that surprisingly, the vibe was that nobody wanted to quit against all odds. We had the worst weather possible, probably. We even rebaptized the adventure Headwind Adventure because everywhere you look, and even if you do 180 degrees trying to get a completely different route, you still had headwind and your range would be not enough to reach the next gas station or airport or anything. So it was so much planning, and especially the first 5 days, too much planning and not much accomplishment because there was no way to fly. It was too much headwind, too much bad weather. And we did what we could in these conditions. The ground support came up with a solution at some point because high Sierras were actually not really flyable. Some more venturers did fly, and we had a few close calls close to Lee Vining, Mono Lake. I think who was that? Trevor.
It was Trevor, and yeah, I took a nasty collapse, and I didn't have video on it too. But yeah, coming off the lead side of those high Sierras and the wind off of that lake,
because
and
it was western wind and headwind, which prevented you to reach your target in time. That was bad. So when we heard the news from these guys, the ground support and everybody, we took a briefing, and we decided to move away from the high Sierras, to move on the other side of Death Valley and restart the challenge from there. But some of us, including me and JT, didn't want to do that. We still wanted to fly the desert, the Death Valley. So we took a little bit of a shortcut. We drove to the heart of Death Valley, Panamint, and started flying from there. And we did, you did 3 beautiful legs. I did just 2 because I was stupid and I didn't mix my oil. You remember that one?
Yeah, and I think we all experienced, there were moments where you had to decide, am I going to follow the road or am I going to fly like a crow? And you would say, I got to fly like a crow because I don't have enough fuel. And so you would do stretches of 30 miles over rugged, there's a goat trail, maybe if you can find it. And if you come down, it's going to be a helicopter ride or, 2-day hike out kind of thing.
Out there.
Yeah.
Lots of those.
It was it was a risk reward, and I think it lucked out for Victor and I. We didn't come down where we didn't want to.
Will Fly donated $5 to the super chat. Said Resurgence PPG rocks. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, we love Will Fly. He does a great job. He does videos that are really fun.
Oh yeah, got a great channel.
So I think one of the things that I really thought was the coolest thing around you guys doing Adventure Wingman was this whole idea that, you really, you had options and you had the right kind of support to go do it, and you could make, better decisions than, like with Icarus or like with some of the cross countries that I've done where, you're either up against the clock and the schedule and the competition, even if they're not directly there. Whereas with this, I felt like you were able to really go out and look for some of the coolest places to go fly and so forth. But it really shows how weather comes into play, right? I mean, I covered 1,900 miles in 6 days and I flew all of that. Whereas you guys, the weather was so bad on many occasions, you literally were having to get on the back of a truck and try and get out of a weather pocket to try and get anything that was worth flying. So my hat's off to you guys and Team Fly Halo, because to me, that's what a lot of people who want to do cross country about, is to know that they can try and do these things, but if it's not working out, that there's still people in the peripheral area that they can help them. And I think some of the coolest things that I saw was like the number of times that you guys would be on the side of the road or hike, and then someone would pick you up. And JT, I know you have at least one really good story where you're going down the highway and you pick up a couple more guys. And so maybe you should tell that story, because that's what paramotoring to me is, when you meet all these people along the way and they think what you're doing is cool, but you discover that what they're doing is super and cool, and they're out to help you.
Well, that's the other fun part of the adventure too, was you found trouble and you would just rely on the goodness of strangers, and it really gave you a good sense of a man would come by. I'd be hitchhiking and I'd say, "You going this way?" "No, I'm going the other way." And then he would turn around and he would say, "You know what? I think I will go your way," and gave us a ride. Victor and I, just before we got to Panguitch, I had an engine out and landed near Highway 89, and I was thumbing a ride. But the man picked up Victor, and he was a pilot himself.
And a veteran.
And a veteran. And he came back and picked me up and gave us a ride. And he was with us for a few hours because the airport was closed and we had to find, but anyway, good people out there. And you just have to kind of get out of your shell and go ask, "Hey, are you going my way?"
And improvise.
I want to mention a couple of people that are donating to the super chat as we're talking. Slow Days donated $5 to the super chat. He said, "I agree," when he's talking about the Resurgence PPG. Linda Anderson, my mom, she donated $5. Thanks, Mom. Geriatric PPG, which is the best name. He said, "Me too," donated $5 to the super chat. So thanks, guys. Appreciate that.
Yeah, we love Lindy Anderson. She is so good. She's always supportive of flyers out there.
Yeah, Mom, she's I call her a Facebook stalker. She's following all of you guys. I'm sure of it. Yeah, she's going to jump on after the halftime show.
Yeah, she's a great person. We love her.
Yeah, she's a keeper. We'll let her be my mom for now. So you guys have a couple of there was one portion of the video, and again, I keep going back to JT's video. There was a part in the video where someone, I don't know who it was. I didn't catch it because I was keeping the sound really low because I was watching it early in the morning when my wife was sleeping right here. And but the guy launched, and I watched him launch, and you could tell right away his wing did some crazy stuff. And then it was like, okay, now I need to get down. And when he went to land, it looked like the bottom fell out. And then he did land. He got a nice flare at the end, and he was able to land and then turn around out of controls wing. Who was that?
That was Victor. That was our
Victor.
That was our pre-start, and he was trying to get me up. He's like, "Oh, come up, come fly with me." And I hadn't broke in my engine yet. And I'm like, "Nah, I can't. I got to break it in." And so he went up, and I got video of it. But it's that area. You've got all that mechanical rotor that comes off all these hills all the time, constantly. And so it's not always. He went up, and he got rocked around, and he managed that because he's a paragliding guy. He knows how to kill that wing once he hit the ground and killed it.
Yeah, my free flight experience helped me a ton there. So let me explain a little bit. When the wind is west over high Sierras, it comes over all this width of mountain. I think it's 50 miles, 100 miles of mountain up to the west coast, right in the west. And when the wind comes over all those in this valley, it's turbulent. That part I didn't know when I launched. And I think it's exactly that western wind that caused the collapses to Trevor's wing and the problems Miro and the others had when they headed to Levining, because the wind started to blow over the mountains from the west.
But it's tricky because the night after I got a nice little butter smooth evening. So it was
not west, not west.
True, it was kind of.
But that's the thing. I flew again after Wingman Challenge. I came back again here, and I'm flying both motor and free flight. When it's north or south along the valley, it's awesome. Even if it's strong, I was actually reach soaring. So with the motor, so wind that powerful to keep you up on a hill. Does nothing to you, even in this valley. But when it comes west, it's crazy. Don't get in the air. So that was the thing that I didn't know for that. That was the very first flight of the Adventure, and people were kind of scared looking at me, especially thinking of, we're going to fly this. Oopsie.
Yes.
Yeah,
the impressive part was when he handled the wing when it hit the ground. What were you going to say, Ryan?
I was going to say, this is the beginning of what we call the guinea pig project. It's a common theme that if you're smart, you'll not be number one in the air every day. You'll be number 3 or 4. Because you let the other guy, I mean, it wasn't just the day one. I mean, this was like prior to like day 0, Victor went up and everyone was just kind of like, whoa. But then on day 1, Iron Man Zach went to launch and he biffs it. Young and spry Judson goes 150 yards right into a bush, and everyone's just kind of watching going, do I want to do this? And it was like that all the time. Even on like at the first day of the last leg, it was supposed to be nice weather and it was super, super blown out. And then again, Zach was the guy who's like, let's do this. And he gives it a shot and kind of chops up his wing. And then again, it was Victor, I think, actually got off the ground, but it was not easy, right? And
that was my fastest inflation ever on a motor.
I'm sure someone's got it on film. It was wild. And then Miro's like, all right, I got this. But it was, I mean, a fight. And I couldn't believe, like, everyone was just watching, saying, I'm not doing it. I'm not going first.
Let's also mention that Zach actually blew his wing. He put his wing in the propeller and destroyed it at that launch.
And
I don't know. I felt it. I like strong winds when it's not
me too.
Bad. And I said, no, I'm gonna do this. I also carry an anemometer wind meter with me. Bring it up. I was in the range. It was 14, gusting 14 miles. And I said, no, 14 is all right.
Yeah,
I'm going to do this. So I was successful.
That's awesome. We're at the halftime. We're going to give away something. We want to spin the wheel. So if you're in the chat, your name has been already put in the wheel. If you've been saying silent, your name's not gone in there. I'm sorry. But we're going to spin the wheel. We're going to give away one of those keychain savers. I want to mention just a couple sponsors for that. One is Nebraska PPG. If you want to get some paramotor training, you're in the Nebraska area. Josh Bowden has a great school there. You can, there's a link in the description if you want to get a hold of him through Facebook and get signed up. It's not too late. They're still doing some training. It's going to get cold though. So maybe you're thinking about next year. This is a great time to start making the motion. Also, the spin of the wheel is actually brought to you by Calamity Kite Clinic. So if you're interested in becoming excellent at ground handling, you can do that by going to the website calamitykiteclinic.com. That's Sean's organization. So you can count on some good learning for ground handling. Everybody talks highly of his skills. Also want to mention maxacro.com. Max is actually in the chat. He just recently got married and super stoked about that. Congratulations, Max. And then he's got maxacro.com, the website. You want to get signed up for an SIV training that will change your perspective on paragliding. That's the place to go. I did my SIV with Max and his team, and it was incredible. I came back with a bunch of tools in my tool belt for flying and feel like I'm legitimate on paragliding. Go ahead and spin the wheel, Sean. So, if I could just mention real quick, also, I fly Indiana powered paragliding. If you're in the Indiana area, you want to get some training, no better place to get proper training. iflyindiana.com is the website. Kevin and his team will get your feet off the ground. Going back to the original giveaway, the gift that we're going to give, it's a phone keeper deal that
lanyard.
The retractable lanyard that will save your butt if you're taking your phone out like I do.
Mm-hmm.
And look at that. It's going to be me.
JT.
Come on.
It's going to Mom.
Come on.
I don't know.
Let's go.
I'm thinking it's going
Yankee. Hey, it's rigged. It's rigged.
Oh, dang.
Yankee paramotor.
I had my chance.
It's still going.
Is it going?
It's still going. I don't know. It might be Craig Couch. It might be Nick River. That's Craig
Couch. Congratulations. Craig Couch.
Congratulations, Craig Couch. You won a nice phone lanyard so you don't ruin your phone or ruin your prop.
Yeah.
You like my radio voice? That was pretty good, right?
That was pretty good.
That was a good radio voice.
Podcast voice right there.
I didn't even know he had that voice when I chose him to come on the show. It just happened.
Oh.
Yeah. Sean Nafsker.
The man with the golden voice, minus the alcohol addiction.
Yeah. That poor guy.
That reminds me, in when we were in Vegas, we stopped at a dry lake, and there was a Channel 8 news guy there, and he had a voice like that. And so he would do and I think Trevor and Judson ran up to him and said, "Hey, can you introduce us in your voice?" And he did the radio voice. He had his voice.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That was on the Adventure Wingman?
Yeah, on the Adventure Wingman. I don't have it. It's on our Slack video, that news. I could find it real quick.
Yeah,
there's a little bit of a 3-minute news. Zach hates it because he comes down and does a knee drag on that. And
oh no.
But Zach he explains that, he had just dragged his knees across the asphalt on the tarmac, and so when he's coming down, he's a little skittish are his knees gonna be screaming in pain. But anyway, Channel 8 in Las Vegas did a little news of that dry lake bed, and that was quite fun. But
Dave Ruff donated $5 to the super chat. Thanks, Dave Ruff. Appreciate that. He gave a little dancing emoji. Also, Hot Buttered Steve Productions donated $20 to the super chat. And he said, Ryan Southwell refuses to film me, apparently due to indecent exposure. And he's not into flash photography either. Someday my prince will come. Yeah, that's Hot Buttered Steve.
That was well written.
Yeah, you gotta work that out, Ryan.
All right.
Yep. So we've got some great questions popped up in the chat. Another question. This is Matt Cowan said, "Who impressed you the most on the challenge?"
There was a few people. I think there was some awards given at the end. I can't remember who got anything because to me it wasn't really about a competition or winning anything and all that. But we got to mention our buddy Mark Barron, who he was kind of coming and going the whole time. He was going to come with his buddy, and his buddy got COVID and Satish couldn't go with him. And so he's like, I'm not going to go. And then everybody in the group was like, come on, Mark, you can go. There's a whole bunch of individuals. So he kind of came, and then he had some slips and falls. And then I think at times he was like, I'm done. I don't want to go on. And so he got the award for persistence. He dug it all the way out through, and in the end, I think he was like, I've done plenty enough. He was letting me use his motor in the end because mine got all banged up. But
is that what you call the grit award? Because you got grit. You grit through it.
Yeah. Everybody was gritting, here and there kind of thing.
Yeah.
Wait, JT, you said your motor got all banged up. Is that the one you broke in?
Yeah, I broke it in and did an old man things. I was rushing. I would turn and try to go in that strong wind. I don't know if you can see that in my videos. You'll see that I love the carbon, but carbon breaks pretty easy. It's not.
Oh no! You
not,
broke it?
not meant to tip over. So
several times.
Oh no. The
Mhm.
brand new Scout.
Yeah, a rental Scout.
A rental.
Fortunately, the ground team was very quick with fixing. Like I told you, there was so many scouts in this trip. I couldn't, not even, but they were fixed. Next morning, they were able to fly.
They showed up with extra parts, I assume, anticipating.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Oh man. Can you imagine you're loading up the trailer? Like, I know there's going to be a lot of damaged motors. This is whole boxes of materials.
And you know what? The Scout itself is really not that fragile. If you like have a hard landing on grass on something, nothing is going to happen. But we weren't on grass.
Yeah.
Almost never. Either concrete asphalt or dirt roads or whatnot. It was tough.
Yeah. For some of the people that have never rented a paramotor before, is there like insurances that, you know, for coverage for if you do have an incident or something and needs repaired, that they'll do it? Or is that a part generally of, yeah, we're renting this to you, if you know there is an issue, it'll cost you this much or something like that? Is there anything like that in place, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's pretty much you break it, you buy it kind of stuff. You know, but the sections are replaceable. So you'll you know, $150 a section or whatever it is, and props are, you know, a few $100. They're pretty expensive, but anyway, yeah, you just have to realize you break it, you're buying it, and try not to break it.
Who was the oldest pilot? That was a question from Jim CR 120.
Oh, JT, how old are you?
I'm 61.
I think you win it.
JT won that trophy.
Yeah.
There was another question. Actually, I want to ask this question. This is from mine. What would you do different if you could do it again? And will you do it again?
They'd all say pack lighter.
I would mix my oil.
Mix my oil. Too soon.
No, I forgot to just mix it after I pour oil and gas. I didn't mix it, and the oil
just a shake.
Shake stays at the bottom. I didn't know that part, and the carb just sucked only oil, and I lost that leg. I didn't even know what happened, but the ground support next day helped me and cleaned it, and I was able to fly again.
That's a really good tip. I don't think I've ever heard that. You just think instinctively you have to do that. But I guess if you're on a mission and you just forget that step.
Exactly. It's the tension, the pressure that you have all the time, and you forget things.
That just made the whole show valuable right there in that one tip. Thank you for that.
Especially in cold weather, right? The oil is much thicker and much more condensed. You know, I've seen guys where they fill it up at the gas station with the gas and they pour the oil in, and you assume that while you're walking out to your LZ that you're shaking it up enough, but it doesn't always work.
Actually, I walked something like 50 to 100 meters, and it still didn't mix. And just so you know how it behaved, I was having good idle, but once I was throttling up, it would bog. It will. So idle was working fine.
That is great information.
And to come back to that question, what I would do different, I threw too much new things at it. I thought I'm going to be up for the challenge. So I had a new motor, I had a new wing, a new throttle, everything throws into it. And so next time it's like, I'm gonna know my equipment before you take that challenge on. And
talk to Zach about that.
Yeah,
that's great.
And definitely you pack light. When after the carnage was happening, I didn't use the bladder. I'm like, I'm not gonna have another 6 liters of pounds, and I'm not gonna take my tent with me. I'm just gonna sleep under the stars. And you start really going down on how much weight you're gonna do, because running is difficult at high altitude.
And plus, it doesn't help. It's bouncing in front of you. It's like,
yeah. It was good to hear Ian say the same thing, like go light, because I think that was the advice I gave a couple people, and they still went out there the first couple of days, tried to take everything with them, and it doesn't last. You're trying, because you're trying to make sure that you have, enough like emergency equipment if you land out far away from any help, right? That's the risk reward versus flying along the road or covering a lot of distance really quickly. And then, the risk, you're always afraid that you're going to get stranded somewhere for 2 or 3 days, right? Do you have water and do you have a way to stay warm? But I know that I've got my wing. I'd rather sleep under the wing than take a tent and anything else with me. So go light, man. If you're not 100% certain you need it, leave it behind, with maybe the exception of, I would even take empty plastic water bottles with no water in it just so that I had a container. It was just little things like that you can do versus carrying the 2 pounds of water.
Victor, did any of your free flight Volbiv stuff come into play? Did you cut your toothbrush in half so it's just a little?
My plan for this trip was I'm not as advanced as some of the people that took part in this one, so I wanted to kind of set my make it easier for me. So first of all, I'm flying an Atom 80, and you should have seen the reaction of people. Are you going to fly
what?
that thing at
You
this
took off
altitude?
with an Atom 80?
So I did 730 of the 1,000 miles with the Atom 80, crossing 5 mountains or so with equipment and everything. I was able to survive. And in some segments, I was carrying camping equipment, but then I figured that we never get to use it. So I dumped it and I just carried the minimum just for gas and some food and water. And I was able to do quite a bit of this challenge on the Atom 80.
Well, it's a learning process too. I think everybody had planned and even, diagrammed and weighed out everything they had. Everybody had, we pared this down to 25 pounds and all that. But even then, it's every day is different, and every little event you kind of like, I don't need this anymore, and next time I'm gonna do this kind of thing. So it's a process.
Every 100 grams matter.
Mm-hmm.
So we were very, very strict, like you said, Robert, from maybe pre-flight Volbiv, the same thing. Get a lighter power bank. Get a lighter this or that. We were carrying canisters so that you don't have to carry your paramotor to the gas station if you land on some 100 yards or even a mile or two. You have a foldable canister. You carry your oil because you cannot get the cheap oil from a gas station. You have to use performance oils. So you carry your own. And survival stuff. We typically didn't try to fly along roads where we could be retrieved, but sometimes your range wouldn't allow that, and you would fly over wilderness, really unretrievable, or even we flew over forests or stuff. You need to balance your risk, and sometimes. We were on the wrong side of the risk, but fortunately, nobody had any problem in this trip.
Wilson just donated $20 to the super chat. He said, "You stay classy, San Diego. I'm Robert Michaels. Name the movie." I know the movie.
Stay classy.
Anchorman.
Yeah.
Trevor Steele's in the chat. Trevor should have got an invite.
Sure.
He must have just landed.
He's flying.
I gotta say hi.
Oh, he's probably at Point.
Everybody.
There's a bunch of people at Point of the Mountain.
Hi,
Hey,
guys.
Mom. Yep. Thank you for that. Thank you for that donation, Wilson. That's super cool. A couple other of the a couple other questions, and I know, gosh, we burned through an hour so fast. Literally, there's 9 minutes left. It's crazy. Well, we'll still do an after show because there's so much stuff that I still am interested in. So altitude flying, wind gradient. I'm so glad, Kurt, Ian, that you mentioned that the exponential curve on the wind. I'm a free flight guy. I originally got hooked on paramotoring videos, but then when I started to get training, my instructor, Phil Russman, was like, hey, you're probably going to like free flight more. And so it just happened that I got into free flying first and then motoring. Talk a little bit about the mix. So from Victor's perspective, free flight paragliding first, then going on adventure flying with the motor. And then maybe some of you guys talk about your experience mountain flying. Oh, by the way, Ryan, that background picture, is that from the trip?
Yes.
I assume. So that Virga right there looked like it was super close. Did you guys experience any super big down drafts?
Absolutely. But not on that flight. Actually, that flight was actually one of the most glorious, amazing mornings of all time. Lake Powell back there.
Nice.
So the very last day. It was the morning of the last day flight back to the home base. But yes, there were, I mean, if you asked, it was asked at the very end, how many of you of all the pilots took a collapse? And I think almost everybody rose their hands. And there were some that were major collapses. There was one guy went down on a reserve throw.
No kidding. I was going to ask that. Really?
Yeah. I mean, it was gnarly. There were definitely flights and you're over some gnarly terrain and you're getting tossed. I mean, I was on full throttle sinking, going straight into a mountain thinking this is going to be close. It's going to be really, really close. And then you get to the other side and then whoop, you get shot up so fast, the G-force freaks you out. And that was most of the trip, basically, for most of it. And I think everybody can relate to that, flying through some really bad conditions.
It was scary.
Yeah, and over glorious terrain too. Sometimes you would just look at it, and I had moments of just tears in your eyes because it's just so. Who gets to experience that feeling, and you're feeling it all. But then other times it's you're almost thinking you're dead.
I got a question for you guys. How many of the group also had experience free flying?
Yeah, I began.
Just Victor, right?
Good question.
So I love paragliding. You got to fly the wing. You watch my skill level and you'll say he doesn't know what he's doing. But yeah, no, I began free flying first. I began hang gliding and paragliding before paramotoring.
Oh, I'm just interested in the entire group, JT. How many of those pilots
I see.
actually had some sort of background in free flight first? Because I get a lot of questions all the time. I just tell people, hey, you got to learn to fly first. Then we'll put a motor on your back.
Yeah.
Especially if they're going to be doing it in the mountains. It's just, there's so many things that go on with weather and stuff like that. So I'm just interested with that group. You guys were flying in the Owens Valley. And maybe the audience doesn't know this, but the Owens Valley is big boy territory when it comes to paragliding. Put a motor on your back and now try to fly midday in there. It's on the verge of pretty much kind of like insanity. Really, it is. What you guys did, I mean, Mitch and I from Lake Tahoe Paragliding, we're looking at this, we're like, dude, do they know it's blowing 40 to 50, sometimes 75 west over? They're just sitting in a friggin' rotor bowl and they're trying to take off. I'm like, woo, all right. I'd be sitting waiting for the weather to change, but I'm just interested to know with the whole group, like how many people had paragliding, like a P4 experience before they got into paramotoring, or was it mostly paramotorists?
Okay, let me try to answer. First of all, it was not only Owens Valley that served us with that kind of weather and rotor and everything. It was much of the whole adventure. And interesting, for sure, not everybody had at least minimal free flight experience. There were people that only flew motor, and it was showing, I would say. And I would claim that most of the people are primarily motor flyers, and just kind of occasionally going to free flight. I'm half-half. So I like both, and I think I have the same amount of hours. And yeah, it's a difference. It's a difference.
And if
the
they
other
hadn't,
hand,
if they
on the
hadn't
other
been to an SIV beforehand, now they have.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, but it's interesting to see if you look at how they handle it. I think it's possible to learn strictly on the motor. If you just push slowly your boundary and fly gradually harder stuff, you can still get to the skills that you would probably accelerate if you go to free flight first, or maybe mixing it. It happens that I got the chance to do free flight, and I had the right friends to hang out with, and I got some experience. But I see people that learn the same stuff only on motor.
Speaking about learning, there's, I think everybody became a much better pilot by the end of this whole experience. And the question of, would you do it again? Yeah. Questionable, but and I'm pretty sure Team Fly Halo will be wanting to do another, maybe might be a little bit of a variation of this last one, because they've learned a lot from it, from hosting it. But I know they're putting on an actual training in Salton Sea, I think in November 10th to 14th, I think.
Oh, so, no kidding.
Yeah. So if people want to start getting into this type of adventure flying, and now that they've got a lot of stories to share and tell from learned experience from all these pilots, and you want to go to Salton Sea for some good flying, then they're putting that on. Be sure to hit that up.
The Salton Sea flying is normally in February, right? But this is separate. This is just a wow, that's cool. Very cool. That's not too far from us, Gringo. We'll have to go down there.
Yeah, Team Fly Halo, it's just cross-country focused training. There it is.
Nice. There's all kinds of people logging in. Welcome. Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely amazing. So there was another question. Jim CR120, he actually just jumped in. He said, for the Wingman Adventures, what was the worst mechanical issues you encountered? And then he asked this, that was not the question I wanted to read. The other question was, when is the next Wingman adventure, and how likely are you to do it again? Yeah, when is the next one? Probably same time.
I don't think they've announced it.
Yeah.
Okay. But
I think I put a link in the description for the website. I think it's a .org. Wingman Challenge, something or other.
Well, and to answer the other question too, Trevor and all of us know that the engine would change every day, kind of thing. And so later on, I would start a launch and the engine would die, just because you didn't have time to adjust the idle and you know, the altitude change and all that. And you're like, oh, it'll warm up when I get up and fly. It's going to be fine, kind of thing. But so the engine was a constant kind of you had to be ready for it to not be working, kind of thing.
We're going to go to the after show. I want to mention a couple sponsors. One of those is Lone Star Paramotor, Lone Star, state of Texas. LoneStarParamotor.com is the website. Ron Turan, he runs that school over there. I've heard nothing but great things about them. So sign up with them if you want to get some training and you're in Texas. Also, the show is brought to you by Resurgence PPG. If you're interested in supporting our men and women of uniform, you can make a tax-deductible donation to resurgencepppg.com. By donating, you're sponsoring those who put their lives on the line for your freedom. You can reach out to Todd Scandrett at resurgencepppg.com. Thank you again. I really appreciate thank you, Harley Milne, for putting the idea out there and inviting these guys to come on. I've been disconnected, just working, flying. The Wingman Challenge wasn't even on my radar. So I really appreciate it. And especially all you guys who, put an hour of the most precious time of the evening to come and be on the show. Really appreciate that. And I know there's so many people that are in the chat and people that were excited about the show. People are going to watch this show for years to come because it's going to be on YouTube forever. So thank you for taking the time to come on. And we're going to go to the after show. I did put the invite code in the description if you want to come hang out with us. And super stoked for that. So come hang out with us. We're going to have a great time in the after show. If I don't see you on the air, I'll see you in there. Thanks for